Hey guys, it's Danny. Hope you had a great and relaxing weekend. We're still moving and still not done yet. We need to fix a lot of stuff. So today, light video. We're gonna take a look at the flower spikes and the flower buds, see how they're developing and tell you a few things that I've noticed depending on the orchid. Also, a few weird things and maybe some spikes that I didn't tell you about. So already, let's get to the updates. So let's start with the Phragmipedium popoi. This is such a wonderful little plant. As you can see, the buds are starting to face downwards, and this is because the flowers actually position themselves so that the lower sepals can grow undisturbed downwards. And from this angle, you cannot really tell how big the buds are. And there you go. This is how big they are. This will be a massive, massive flower. Really happy that the flower spike handled transport so well. I received it, 3 weeks ago, and these buds were totally not formed. It was just a little bit of an inflorescence, let's call it like that, at the top. You can check it down below. I made a separate video about this guy. So he's developing buds super fast. Considering that all of my other orchids, which I'm gonna show you, develop their buds so incredibly slow. But there is a reason. So with everything that I'm gonna show you, I noticed a super slow growth. They develop normally and nicely, but my greenhouse was not warm. Rarely did I reach the 20s in the daytime. And when I say 20s, it's in degrees Celsius. In the nighttime, I maintain the temperature with my AC, but in the daytime, I just let it warm up with the sun and open the windows, so it was fairly coolish. And that made everybody grow very slow. And some of the slowest orchids were the Phalaenopsis. They started to spike somewhere in November, and it's already March. I've never had such long developing times, but it's okay. They're actually developing beautifully. So I'm not going to show you all of them, but just a few of the highlights. I think I'm going to have the best Phalaenopsis display ever this year. At least this is what it's kind of shaping up to be. So let me show you what I mean. So in the previous years, I did have quite a nice display on the Phalaenopsis. One thing I could never master was branching. Now, of course, not all the hybrids are prone to branching, but many of them are. This year, I do have a bit more success with branching. This is one of them. I cannot tell you the name of this one because we've never identified it. It has yellow flowers with brown spots, and the spots are quite big. So she's working on 2 branches and a main flower spike. Hopefully it's going to be as long as possible. And this one, again, I'm not sure which one it is. I had quite a few no IDs and I didn't put a tag at least describing the flower. So that was my mistake. I have no idea what this is. But again, I do see that she is branching out. And of course, the more branches we have, the better. And some orchids didn't branch out, sadly. But I'm not necessarily sure they're prone to branching. This is the Brother Sarah Gold. She did create 2 flower spikes, so I'm happy. But this one, no branches. And the other 2 here are 2 no IDs. One of them I actually received not in bloom. Last year I actually received quite a few Phalaenopsis without any blooms, dehydrated to save, and I saved them, but I have no idea what they are. I think it will be purple, but I'm not entirely sure. So either this one, either the other one in the back there might be purple. I have no idea which one is which because yet again I didn't put tags. Anyway, returning to branching, this is Phalaenopsis, a wild peach, and she created a huge flower spike. I hope more buds will be created from the top. The flower spike is still growing, but I do see a little branch there. I also have this one. I think this is a yellow one with a red center. Again, I didn't put a tag. I will put tags from now on. So we have 2 flower spikes. This is one, and this is the second. We have a branch there, and here we do have a little nubbin starting to poke, but I'm not sure if it's gonna branch. So 2 flower spikes and a branch, that's quite neat. It's the first time that I have this. Also, let's update you on the crown-rotted Phalaenopsis that I received for me and my boyfriend's anniversary. She created a tiny basil keiki here, which is producing a flower spike, but also the mother orchid is producing 2 branches here. I let them be because this orchid really did have a nice root system. I made sure I kept her fed and hydrated. So yeah, no point in cutting those flower spikes, particularly because she is crown rotted. And in case something happens to the lower keiki, I just wanted to leave the branches. So yeah, a pretty nice display from the crown rotted orchid as well. On this side, we have the long stem Phalaenopsis. If you don't know who she is, check out the link down below. This is quite an interesting case. She decided she really wants to bloom, so she created another branch here. Mind you, I cut the flower spike because I really wanted this orchid to focus on roots and on foliage. She is not in the best condition. I purchased it like that. So one branch there. one branch here on the same flower spike, and a new flower spike. Very prolific bloomer, I might add, so that's a good one. If she's not terribly sick, she's gonna be a really good one. And here, you don't really know this one. I barely featured her in one of my greenhouse tours. She was a shipwreck. I saved her. She was €2, completely dehydrated, in poor condition. And she had a few flowers that were just on their way out. I kind of like the flowers. For €2, you know, I purchased it. So I cut the flower spike because I saw a few nubbins starting to develop. So yeah, we do have 2 branches on this one. I really just wanted to see how the flowers look like since they were really faded when I purchased her. But once the summer comes, they're gonna be cut. I really want this orchid to develop because I think she's pretty. I think she's a DTPS actually, if we consider the old names. So not a pure Phalaenopsis hybrid. Also, the lovely Phalaenopsis Leodoro that I just purchased in October of last year, I let the flower spikes be because some sources suggest this is a sequential bloomer. My older one never did that. Flower spikes would just linger on, but then they would branch out. They wouldn't continue growth from the tip. But I decided to let them be, see what happens. This flower spike branched, it's producing a few flowers. And this flower spike actually is continuing growth. So at this point, I'm really not sure if she is sequential or not. One of her parents is the Violacea, and that one is sequential. So maybe some of them are sequential, some of them are not. You never know what genes they got, and there might be quite a variety between the individuals. So I just decided to let this one be. She is a vigorous plant, she has roots. She matured this really lovely looking leaf. So no point in cutting the flower spikes, I'm just letting them be. Okay, moving on to things that are not Phalaenopsis, this is a Tolumnia. It's one of the Tolumnias that I received from one of my viewers. It's supposed to be orange. I'm not entirely sure about the ID, but I think my viewer identified her as Gentin Orange. We're just gonna have to wait and see, but the flower spike is so long. And as you can see already, the buds are starting to form. Now I checked pictures with this orchid on the internet, and indeed the Gentin Orange appears to create really long flower spikes. So judging by her appearance, she might just be that one, which is lovely. I love orange flowers. Red and orange, and that golden orangey type of yellow. Those are my absolute favorite. And here we have the Leptotes bicolor. She is maturing her little bud right there. I purchased this orchid as a young orchid, not necessarily a seedling, but quite young. So this is the very first ever blooming for her. I really hope the flower will be okay. Sometimes when the orchids just reach maturity and they create their first flower, you might have some unpleasant surprises, but let's hope it's not the case. And let me give you a close-up of the bud. There you go, the bud is produced from the top of the pseudobulb, the cane. The leaf on this orchid is pretty succulent, so it doesn't really need a very thick or plump pseudobulb. The actual pseudobulb is pretty tiny, you can barely see it. The leaf, however, is really long. Okay, the Rehabilitating Francis Fox. I cannot wait to see this orchid in bloom. When did I show you the spike forming? In November or October? Yeah, it took since then until now to create this pretty long flower spike and 3 lovely buds. And again, I'm not sure I can reach there at the moment. The buds are really big because this orchid does produce quite a large flower, and I absolutely am dying to show you this flower. It has the most amazing lip you've ever seen. It looks like it has tessellation, but it's not the white tessellation. It is a beautiful dark one. It looks very artistic actually, and it reminds me of, how do you call them? Crochets? Things you produce by using crochets? Excuse my language here, it's not a term I use often, but yeah, you know what I mean. Flower is gorgeous on this one. So, developing really slow, it has a really tall flower spike, but I think the reward will be worth it. Along the lines of the Rehabilitating is this gem right here. This is the Cattleya Intermedia variety Equini. Yet again, I cannot really reach right there and show you how big the buds are, and I don't want to move them because this is the period where the flowers orient themselves, and I really don't want to move these orchids. But anyway, looking at it, the bud is around 5 centimeters long, and when it opens, usually flowers stretch quite a bit, a few more centimeters, maybe 2 centimeters, so I can imagine this will be a pretty huge flower. This one I purchased from Catasetum 2 from eBay last summer, and it produced this new growth, as you can see, not as big as the other ones, indeed, quite shorter. It's not necessarily a cluster type of orchid, but definitely more buds than this. However, I'm really happy with what I got. It is the first pseudobulb created in my care and it's blooming, so I'm happy about that. Hopefully we'll get her going a lot better from now on. Okay, next up, the Vanagla. Again, I showed you this one, I don't know when, December I think, or January. There was something in the base of that sheath, and it's March, the middle of March. The sheath dried and it got me a little worried, but it is developing, thankfully. Now, with the Cattleyas, there are pretty much 3 types of Cattleyas. There might be more, though. So there are those types of Cattleyas that produce the buds directly. When the cane or the leaves of the cane open, you'll see the buds inside as well. There are also those Cattleyas that produce a sheath, and from a green sheath, they will produce the buds. And there are the Cattleyas, which are the scariest. They dry the sheath, and then when you least expect it, they do produce something from the sheath. And the Vanagla, well, she's kind of in between. I've had spikes from her from green sheaths, but there you go, we also have spikes from the dried sheaths. So don't worry, don't panic if you have this one and the sheath is dry. It might still produce something, just let her be. She knows better what she wants to do. The pseudobulb is so plump this year, it's really nice. So I'm really hoping I will get more than 2 flowers. I think the last blooming from this one was 2 flowers. This orchid can produce more flowers than that. So let's see what happens this year. I really hope it's more than 2. And here is one of my little monsters. You cannot tell right now, but the longest cane is about 80 centimeters long or 75, something of the sorts. It is big. It is starting to open up his buds. As you can see, the flower spikes are pendant. He still has some buds there. I received this one yet again in November or the end of October from Ana Maria, and he actually didn't grow roots or anything. The roots that you see there, well, that was a little bit of an accident, so let me show you. Do you see the cane? It used to be perfectly straight. Do you see how bendy he is right now? He used to be worse than this. So what I did was I tied his stake to the IKEA stand because this guy was in danger of actually breaking. This cluster of blooms is really heavy, and it's not the full potential, I have to say. In pictures, I've seen clusters bigger than this, and I've also seen a lot more clusters. I have 3, but considering he has been unpotted right at the verge of his, let's say, rest, I am pretty amazed he managed to bloom. But yeah, keep it in mind, if you have this orchid, when it starts to create the flower spikes, think of ways to stabilize the canes. The stake was not enough to stabilize it. As you can see, it started to pull on the orchid and the orchid came out from her pot a little bit, and she was in danger of actually completely falling out of her pot. Nonetheless, pretty flowers. Alrighty, back there, the Kirara. She's producing new roots, and I was contemplating on repotting her because I really don't want to mess up those roots. There's a whole bunch of them. And if they get messed up by the medium, then But I've decided to make sure that the top is moist. I tried to repot her, but I think she is pot bound. She absolutely did not want to come out easily from her pot, and there is a chance I will break some of the roots. And she's producing this flower spike. I really don't want to damage the orchid in any way. I've had this one for about 2 years now, and it's one of those that actually looks like a Brassavola. Although the Brassavola is not in her parentage, so she's not fragrant, but she looks like a Brassavola, and I'm just a sucker for the Cattleya hybrids, especially if they have Brassavola in them for the fragrance, or they look like a Brassavola. It's just something I really like. So the flower spike, because that's what we're talking about. So I saw the sheath. This orchid produces a sheath, and then I saw something poking through the sheath. And it looked to me like it was one bud, which was a disappointment because this orchid really does produce multiple flowers. And the new cane and leaf are really big, the biggest it ever created. So I was hoping for, at least 3 flowers or 2. But then I realized it's actually the flower spike developing inside the sheath, and the flower spike can be quite long. And from the flower spike, the buds will start to develop. And I don't see them just yet, it's just the flower spike growing, so yes, there's still hope, it's not just one bud. Okay, up here we have the Nobiles. They spend a lot of time outside. I thought I could just keep them outside, but I cannot. It was pretty cold, and I managed to mess up the leaves on one of them because of rain plus cold. Not a good combination. So I brought them in. This is the Aurora you see in the back there. He is full of buds on the new canes and a few on the older canes. There you go. Wherever there's an available eye, he will bloom. Now, somebody told me that I only show out the Aurora. Well, yeah, because it's my favorite. It's my pride and joy. And he actually has the name of my mother, so he's very dear to me. But I do still have all of my Nobiles. This is the Angel Lycée, not entirely sure how to pronounce it. He is creating his buds as well. He produced 2 sets of canes actually last year, and both of them are blooming. There are a few in the back there. There's a smaller cane there. another small cane here, and the newest cane here. He will have flowers on both of these growths. And in the back there is the Dendrobium Akatsuki, and I have two more Dendrobiums outside. I'll tell you the story with them. One of them is the white one. What's your name? Apollon, Spring Dream Apollon. Well, that guy always gets crinkly leaves, no matter what. Now, I didn't check him for Fusarium, but I intend to check him. And I decided, well, you know what? It's a white Nobile. I can always replace him. I just don't want him close to my other one. So that's why he's outside. And there's another one, a white one that I received from my boyfriend. He's still there. He is producing buds. I just had an issue. He fell and he is leaning on something. Let me just show you. Yeah, he's leaning on something there outside, and I don't want to move him because he fell, and he does have buds, and I decided, well, it's warm, I'm going to keep him outside, not going to move him, and that's that. We'll see how he blooms outside. But yeah, I still have them. That's him. And down there, we have the Apollon, but I'm not sure about that one. Another surprise flower spike from my Encyclia Cordigera. This is the second one that I purchased. I purchased her with a flower spike. I know how the flowers look like. She went through some stress, as you can see, so I'm not entirely sure that this flower spike will be fancy or good looking, but it's something, it's nice. I'm actually more interested in the other one, which has already been repotted. I don't know, I've never seen that one in bloom, and she is actually one of my oldest orchids. She went through a lot of hassles. She went through bad medium and fungal infection everywhere. I thought I will lose her. She went through spider mite. She went through every bad thing that ever happened to me, actually. Oh, she went through the summer where I wasn't home for 3 months, yet again. And she survives. She is one of my dearest orchids, and I've never even seen her in bloom. So I'm more interested to see how she looks like, but of course I do love this Encyclia as well. She doesn't produce a sheath per se. There is something in the middle, but very, very tiny. The flower spike usually emerges from the top without any type of very big sheath or anything. One more nice surprise is the Anosmum cross that I have already for 3 years, I think. Or 4? No, 3. So in the first year, he managed to bloom 1 or 2 flowers, not more. Second year, he didn't bloom. I'm not sure what I did wrong. I did something wrong, but I don't remember what. Anyway, this year, with everything, he created some canes that are not necessarily super long, but not necessarily super short either. And he's managing to produce 2 buds. Each bud can produce 2 flowers, by the way, so hopefully 2 flowers. So on this cane, which is the longest, and I think he will stop growing from the tip, but also he has a smaller cane, which is not done growing just yet, and I do see some nubbins on this cane as well. So we will get a few flowers from this guy, but I intend to give him a lot more attention. This is the type of orchid that eats a lot during summertime, pretty much like Catasetums, and I kind of slacked with fertilizer for him this year. Also, he was kind of confused about what time of the year it is. In December, he was still growing strong, his leaves right here. So, given that in my climate, summers are really, really long, it should be the perfect climate for him if I provide nutrients as well. So the plan with this guy, you know, Roger made some plans. I have a plan as well. I intend to feed the heck out of my heavy feeders this year because I have a funny feeling this is what I did wrong with some of the Catasetums and this guy as well. So this year, when I start to see the new growths forming, of course he will get repotted. He's not repotted just yet. I will start to fertilize this guy like there's no tomorrow. And I will place him on the IKEA stand at the very top right there so he can have tremendous amounts of light. Here's the thing, if you feed orchids a lot, you need to compensate with the other stuff as well. High temperature and also light, because otherwise you would just waste fertilizer. For an orchid to actually eat as much as you give it, you need to speed up her metabolism as well. And this guy creates super long canes. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this. Gotta love spring. A lot of stuff are starting to spike in spring for me. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe to my channel for daily orchids and plants videos. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss any of my chaotically uploaded videos. Bye! And here we have a confused little root. She came out of the medium and decided, oh wait, it was a little bit better in the medium. Now I want to go back. But what do you know, we have the edge of the pot. She looks funny. Another advantage to the pebbles, yet another one, is that they reflect light, giving quite a lot of light for the orchids themselves, and that's not a bad thing.